Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rebel Talk podcast presented by the Rebel Walk. I'm your host, Zach Moreth, and as always, I'm here with your co-host, Daylan Flowers. We're here to dissect the Ole Miss win over Georgia. The Rebels won 28-10. Just a really exciting day in the Vaught. Daylan and I were both in the student section. Over 68,000 people, the largest crowd ever at an Ole Miss game. Before we get going here, make sure to like and subscribe. Daylan, student section was electric, man. I want to get your thoughts on the experience, and just what were you feeling at the game?
Man, the seasons before the season starts, we get that we're going to have Georgia here in Oxford, and that's immediately like the game for everyone. And I'm hearing from people just in Oxford and all over the country, they're just like they're going to be there, and this is going to be the moment. And for it to come this weekend, it was like surreal. Like this is actually happening. Man, I get to the stadium super early, and it was electric, man. That's like I'm honestly at loss for how great the atmosphere was, and not just the noise, but the music, the engagement, and at the beginning of the game for people that weren't at the stadium, the flyover from our military forces, and it was just so amazing. Like it was the mecca of what college football is, and the excitement that it can bring to people and why it brings together so many people every weekend. It was beautiful. Like it truly was by far the best home game experience I've had at Ole Miss so far. I know a lot of people will go and reflect to that LSU game last year. Definitely, probably the more exciting game, just going back and forth. And of course, we had the field rush too, which was of course exciting. But just in terms from start to finish, I'm talking about the light shows, the fireworks, the music, the chants, the songs, the getting the crowd involved, the players hyping us up. It was perfect. And it's what I would hope the vault is going to continue to be consistently always. I know it's Georgia, and that's the game and all the recruits and the media are there. So that's why that happened. But this should be the standpoint for Vaught Hemingway Stadium going forward. This is what we can do on a given Saturday. It was just electric, my friend. And obviously you were there, so just kind of for the people that weren't, just that was the moment for you to be there and enjoy what college football was. And it just felt so good for me to be like, you know what, I'm a part of this school and I got to be a part of that moment. And it was just amazing. And like they had the smoke come out and like they literally had to stop play for a minute to come back because they couldn't play with the smoke. And I got some shots of the film, the smoke. It was just legendary. It was just like something out of a movie, and it was beautiful. And I'm just so proud that not only did we win the game, but we brought people together for this moment and we executed it so freaking well, man. It was just a beautiful, beautiful weekend that, the buildup was insane, and to execute it how we did with that, it was really just heartwarming for me just to be a part of it.
Dude, and you're nailing it on the head here. It was heartwarming, and as an Ole Miss fan, this year has just been full of ups and downs. And
Yeah.
it starts, date it back to December. We enter the transfer portal. We put a beating on Penn State, and then you go out and you get Princey Omamiel and Walter Nolan, the two offensive linemen, all these players in the secondary, Daquan Wright. You get all these guys, and it's the last dance, right? Well, then you lose to Kentucky, and it's like, wow. I mean, walking out of that stadium, I'm contemplating like the rest of the season. Like,
Yeah.
we just lost to Kentucky. Okay, you lose to LSU. Backs against the wall. Viral clip of Jackson Dart. You got to win out. Then you get to Georgia week, and I have never experienced this type of atmosphere in my life. This is a little corny, I know, but I was walking around Friday night, and I actually wrote down in my notes because I wanted to make sure that I wrote this down before the game so people didn't think it was fraudulent. I wrote down, I think Ole Miss wins this game. I don't know what it is. Walking around campus, there was something in the air. There was a feeling. It was very just different and unique. You almost couldn't really explain it. You'll never be able to replicate it, but there was something in the air. And the second we got into Vaught Hemingway Stadium, Dalen and I were in there early, dapped each other up. It was probably 2 hours before the game.
Mhm.
And then the flyover happens, and all of a sudden the mood changes when Jackson Dart throws an interception. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh God, like Georgia's going to come out here and do exactly what they did last year. I want to dive in here a little bit to Austin Simmons, Dalen. This kid, man. What a drive. He goes 5 for 6, absolutely marches Ole Miss down the field, and then Ulysses Bentley brings it home with a beautiful run up the middle for a touchdown. And I think what fans have to understand is if you don't get a touchdown there,
Yeah.
the entire vibe, the entire mood of the game changes because you're down 7-0. You don't know what's going on with Jackson Dart, which he later did come in. We know that. But you're down 7-0 and you're giving the ball back to Georgia after 2 failed drives. But instead, Austin Simmons gets in there, gets his hands dirty. He's throwing the ball around the yard. On a 4th and 1 play, he targets Malachi Starks on Caden Lee. Come on, man. Just making some impressive plays. I want to get your take on that, Daylan.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because if I'm not mistaken, just on my own, that our conversation at the end of the week before the actual game, you were the kind of only person that I mentioned just a shout out to Austin Simmons, and because he came in against Arkansas, and obviously we'd seen him over the course of the start of the season as well. But I thought I really was just amazed about how he came in against Arkansas and just executed. Obviously, that Arkansas defense was depleted at that point of the game and worn out, and then been beaten up so much throughout the course of the game. But he still looked really good, and he just getting the ball in his hands, executing his footwork, and just putting the ball right on the money. Like his throwing ability looks like, the way it moves in the air and gets so quick to his receivers. It looks like he's throwing it so hard, but at the same time, if you're sitting back there and you're watching him, he's actually just kind of like free throwing it, in my opinion. But it gets to his receivers so quickly. And so, I shouted him out with you, and he comes in, and, I'm hearing, people around me just like, what is this? What's going to happen? He's never been in a situation like this. There's so much pressure, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, just wait, just have a little faith in the kid. And for him to come out there and do that. And like you said, that's a drive where we're coming off their interception. We need at least some type of points. And like you bring up, and I'm glad you brought up him targeting Caden Lee on a 4th and 1 on Malachi is huge. That not only a great play call, but puts the fact on how confident he is in his ability to get the ball to the receiver and read the coverage, but as well his ability to understand that I can make any throw wherever my receiver is, wherever the coverage is, and that's huge for a quarterback, especially for a guy that has no real starting experience, has never really been through the whole torts of a season. He just looked really good. And, that's just accustomed to how good, we heard he was coming out of high school. And, this guy comes in super early for a guy that's not supposed to be ready for another year or two coming out of high school. I've had many conversations with his dad over the last few months, and his dad has obviously raved about him, but to actually see it in that moment, that type of pressure, that type of noise, that type of atmosphere, and obviously millions of people watching, and to go out there level-headed and execute is just job well done. Just job well done by the coaching staff, by Simmons to be prepared for this moment, know the game plan and execute it properly. And as well, shout out to the offensive line and Charlie Wise on that drive. I mean, in Lane Kiffin as well. I mean, I think they created great plays that didn't happen to make Austin have to hold the ball too long, which allowed him to get really good progression on his throws and just understand, okay, I got to get it here quickly. And that's what he does. That's what he does really good. And so shout out to just the play call on that drive. And that's something I'll bring up later on, but they did a really good job in getting him comfortable in the offensive line, being able to, keep intact a really good Georgia defensive line throughout the whole game, might I add as well. But just the whole execution of that drive was perfect. And I'm just really proud of Austin Simmons. He deserved that moment. Coming into the season, I actually had a chat with this leaving the game with a friend. We're hearing Austin Simmons is the second string over Walker Howard, and we're like, okay, that means either Walker has digressed or Austin Simmons is really that good. And I think this moment really just proved how good Austin Simmons is, and what the future, for the next year or two will look like under him. And it was just amazing. It really was. He just looked so confident for a kid that you probably wouldn't think has so much confidence just based off this inexperience. But I'm so happy for the kid. Like, he deserved that moment, and that is truly a landmark opportunity for a storybook ending, for a great college career at the end of the day. Like, this is where I got my big moment. I just took off from here. and I'm proud of him. Like I really am. He's tossing the ball like Dylan Gabriel to me. Like he just looked
Yes.
so executed and just so looked like he's been playing in the league and working under so many NFL legends for 10 years. So he just looked really, really ready for the moment, and just shout out to him, man, and the entire staff for making him ready for that moment.
Yeah, he was poised. He was spot on, hitting everything. Just like you said, man, he's going to be a big time NFL player one day. And I think his confidence really rolled into Jackson Dart's confidence on those
Yeah,
next and upcoming drives. There were very few times in the game when Ole Miss actually punted. A lot of field goals. It was field goal, field goal, field goal, touchdown, field goal. So almost every drive, they're putting points on the board. And that's what you have to do to beat a team like Georgia. But most importantly, Daylan, was this defensive side of the ball who was elite. And if you don't give Georgia the ball on the Ole Miss 21-yard line,
yeah,
I don't know if they score a touchdown the entire game, man. I'm Carson Beck. We've been talking about it all year, but I think he has really regressed. I don't know what the problem is. He didn't look horrible yesterday, and that interception was tipped. I'll give him that, but you can tell they don't have much faith in him. They ran the ball an absurd amount, and when they weren't running the ball, they were trying to do screen passes because the Ole Miss run defense is absolutely just special. Heading into this game, the most amount of sacks they'd given up was to Alabama, and that was 3 sacks. Ole Miss recorded 5, so now that is the new most amount of sacks that Georgia's given up, and this defensive line was absolutely eating, Dalen. And then I want to talk about, JJ Pequise comes out of the game and there's no drop off.
yeah.
You still are forcing Prince Umamielans coming in and getting those strip sacks. You're forcing fumbles. They were flying everywhere. And Georgia has an incredible wide receiving core. I don't want to underplay Georgia here. They've scored 30 in every single game except Kentucky. They scored 10 points against Ole Miss. Like, this isn't a bad Georgia offense. This is a Georgia offense. They came in here and got shut down, Dalen. I want to get your thoughts on this defensive performance and Pete Golding as a whole, who's having an awesome season with Ole Miss.
Man, I don't even know where to start with the defense. Like, since you just brought up Pete, for a guy that coming in, if I'm honest, I didn't know too much about Pete when he first got hired, if I'm honest. And just my first kind of initiation to who he was just so much hate from Alabama fans.
Yeah.
This guy can't get the job done. One of the worst third down play callers I've seen. Why did Saban hire him? Blah, 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 blah from Bama fans. And I say now, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's not just the ability to coach at a high level, but he's recruited his butt off in 2 years. He's gotten the staff on that side of the ball that is out of this world. And they all have just kind of bought in, and they also bring each other up really well and do things differently really well that help bind to make a really good defense. But Pete, in 2 years, man, I never would think I would see not only just a great defense from a Lane Kiffin football team, but an elite defense. This is a team that throughout the whole season I raved about, but yesterday truly just made my remark in saying, I think this may be the best defense in the country. And on every level, we played really freaking well yesterday. And I want to say this, I'm not saying I told you so to you because you didn't disagree with me, but just saying I told you so. I know the ball was tipped by Jared Ivey, but I call John Saunders Jr. getting an interception. This guy has been really, really freaking good all year long. And like I said last week, looking, if you're a numbers person, you don't actually watch the games too much. You may think, he hasn't been incredible, but his coverage all season long has been well. And for some reason, I felt that moment would happen for him, and Carson Beck just coming the way he's been going over the last month and a half with his turnover ratio. I just felt that was happening. So I'm shout out to John Saunders. He's been playing incredible this season. And going back to your point about the defensive line, man, it's incredible. Like the emergence of Sontarian Perkins, his ability to help out the defensive line. One point that I think maybe you've tossed around over the last few weeks is we're so good on the front line now. You can't just double Princely. You can't just double Walter. You can't just double JJ. You can't just double Jared because that leads these other guys, Suntarian and Pooh, and of course those guys that just named on the line to get one-on-one opportunities. And 9 times out of 10, I promise you, I'm going to take them over whoever your offensive line is. I'll probably bring this up this last time, but because I don't really want to keep going back to the LSU game. It's over, and I'm just gonna have to let it go and accept it. But I really was frustrated with not having Princely Umama yelling against LSU, other than the one drive he played in the first quarter, and then after the rest of the game he was done. It really just irked me because LSU's offensive line, number one of the conference in sacks against, and I think we didn't really have too many sack numbers, but we were putting good pressure on Garrett Nussmeier that entire game. We just didn't finish a few of the sacks, and I think if Princely was out there, his just quickness and ability to just get off the line of scrimmage and just, even if he has one move, sometimes he doesn't. He just simply runs past a lot of the outside tackles. It's ridiculous. Like when this guy is healthy and you have the talent around him to allow him to have a more than likely one-on-one coverage mode 9 times out of 10, you can't stop him. Genuinely, you can't. And I've noticed a lot of times that, like especially on, not even just always, but especially on third down situations, we'll call a play call, and I'm not going to give out the hand gestures for it because I've been watching the coaches do this a lot. But we'll bring in Princely and we'll bring in Suntarian, and I just know the heat is coming. And I don't doubt that the play is going to end up with the sack in almost every time it happens. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to watch this defensive line play. And it's funny because, last week I mentioned the secondary is going to have to step up really big against a Georgia offense that passes the ball a lot. And it's funny that I say that now because this defensive line, the secondary played out their minds, don't get me wrong, but they really didn't even have to worry too much about it because our defensive line was getting in the backfield so much. It was like they just had to kind of control their ground as a secondary, and they did their job. And what's the big thing for this as well, LSU is first on the conference on sacks against Georgia's number 2. This Georgia offensive line is top 10 in the nation. A lot of these guys are going to be playing on Sundays very soon. And like you said, we gave them 5 sacks. We made them look like a JV team. And it's just the talent, the depth, the understanding of the ability of what the game plan was for this weekend and executing it at a high level. Like you said, JJ goes out and it scared the crap out of me just because it's JJ. Not just because it's JJ, but we love JJ and obviously what he brings to this team, but the way he went down. And he goes out and we just regroup and go back out there and continue the same game plan and execute it at a high level. Man, oh man, it's just exciting to see this. And every single team facing this defense should be scared. They should be. You can't eliminate any prosperity when Pooh Paul or Kari Coleman or TJ Daugherty are in the line or on that linebacking level, or Trey Amos and John Saunders Jr. or Trey Washington are back there playing in the secondary, or Jaden Kennedy back there and playing the secondary. This group is now really playing as a team format now, in my opinion, and it was executed at a high freaking level this weekend. And shout out to Pooh Paul Jr. as well, man. Just a dog. I mean, I don't know if you were watching him closely as I was, but it's like every time he tackles, he's just tackling with intent. Like he's tackling literally just to drive someone through the ground. And I love that he's on my team and not, on any other team. And it's just exciting to watch his leadership. He loves coming and hyping up the crowd. And that's something that I feel like we've always just kind of missed on our team. Just a guy that brings the energy to the crowd. And he's just done a fantastic job in his first year here at Ole Miss, buying in, being a leader with his actions and his words. And I'm really just in awe of how progressed I've seen him be this year, because I watched him a lot at his time at Arkansas, but I've truly just seen him clean up a lot of the stuff he did over his years at Arkansas and just become more of a man and more of a leader as well. And man, oh man, I am just really comfortable with my defenses on the field now.
Yeah, man. And, one of the things that stands out to me, I don't know how you can find this stat, but Ole Miss is rushing 4 almost every third down, and they're still getting sacks and pressures and tackles for losses. And when you do that, you're allowing yourself to have 7 guys guarding all these wide receivers versus if you rush that fifth man, then you get 6 guys in the secondary. And then you're at a disadvantage, right? Especially against a team like Georgia with a really good wide receiving core. But because you have just an elite front, I'm talking best in the nation, you can rush 4 and still get pressure against the best offensive, arguably the best offensive line in the SEC, or second best behind LSU. But, I think I've seen enough at this point, Dalen. This defense can compete with any offense or any offensive line in the country. And I truly believe, I'm trying to take my bias out of this as a student at Ole Miss. I truly believe this defense can get Ole Miss to the national championship game. And if they play the way that they have been, I don't see why they can't win a national championship with this team, man. I mean, and then when the defense is playing like that, it inspires the offense, it motivates them, it takes some pressure off their shoulders, and they can just go out there and play free. Play free. Let's throw it to everyone. Let's get everyone involved. There's so many things clicking right now, and it's an awesome time to be a fan of this team. Moving into some of the things in the future here, Dalen, Lane Kiffin talked about today a little bit he had a Zoom call. Mm-hmm. He said he hopes Logan Diggs is back. A couple weeks ago, he said he also believes Logan Diggs will be back. You'd like to see Trey Harris coming back. Mm-hmm. Just your thoughts, what impact would Logan Diggs have? And I think it was you who asked this on the Stephen Willis show. If Trey's healthy, do you think you should play him the last 2 weeks? I just want to get your thoughts on, the injury situation moving forward.
I'll start with Trey. I was just really proud last weekend how we executed without him. And I kind of thought that if we end up not playing with him against Georgia, that I thought we would be okay. And because of how well the game plan was and how well we executed against Arkansas, if Harris was to be 100% coming off this bye week, going into Florida in the Egg Bowl, I think you give him some reps. Sure. I think at this point of the season, the hope is, that Florida game is going to be a difficult one. Gainesville is never going to be an easy place to play. I would expect DJ Lagway to come back and be 100% healthy by that time. So that's going to be a dogfight. And I think State will definitely, make us kind of think a little bit as well, but I definitely think we'll get that job done. But I think we give Trey some reps over those games. I think we have the better opportunity to go 2-0 in our last 2 games, and hopefully that gets us into the playoffs. And I don't know if I really want Trey to go in not being at least some type of game ready, if that makes sense. And I'd like to at least see him out there just a little bit before that time was to come to get to the playoffs, because, that point is going to be late December probably, and that'll be a long time. He hasn't played since the LSU game. That'll be a long time for him not to be on the field at all. So I think I would definitely like to see him out there just a little bit, even if he's just maybe goes for like the first half or something, or just the first quarter. I would like to see him out there. So I think this is the best time for a bye week for us to happen, to kind of get those guys regrouped, and even Logan Diggs going into him. I'm excited for him. I think he gives us a threat in the red zone that we've kind of missed, and we've kind of had to rely on JJ a little bit. And I don't, I think JJ's great, don't get me wrong, but I also think that has kind of made him a little more injury prone, because he's kind of having to deal with more on the side of him also being on the defensive line a lot. So I'm definitely excited to see Logan have the possibility to come back and play. He's a strong runner, very big and solid dude, just runs with his head down and drives his legs really well. I think he can bring a bit of pass blocking to this offense as well that has kind of been missing the running back position with Parrish and UB. So I think Logan Diggs will bring a pretty essential part to this defense. He gets up the field really well and reads blocks really well. I'm excited about him. He's a guy that I talked about in the offseason a little bit this summer, but not too much, because I know kind of we didn't know when we were going to expect him, if all throughout the regular season. So now that it's seeming more and more likely that we may end up seeing him in the regular season. I think it's time for fans to just watch a little bit of tape of him at LSU and Notre Dame to just kind of get a true exact of how good Logan Diggs is and what he can provide to a running room that, I mean, has pretty much struggled throughout the course of the entire season.
Yeah, his presence would ultimately change the entire rushing attack because he's your guy, similar. He runs in a similar fashion to Quinshon Judkins, where he's just running straight, through the lane, and he's doing it fast as well. Versus Bentley and Parrish, we've talked about this. They're more agile. Their feet are always moving. They're cutting. But Diggs is going to get you from point A to point B. And if you want to go check out, how talented he is, go watch highlights of Ole Miss versus LSU last year.
Yeah.
He came to Vaught Hemingway, and that's exactly what he did. LSU would get in the red zone, anywhere within that 10 to 5 yard line, and Logan Diggs gets the ball, and it's usually a touchdown. For those who don't know, I believe he tore his ACL on January 1st. I think it was one of those bowl games. And the typical ACL recovery, it's around 9 or 10 months. We're going on month 11 here. I truly believe that he's going to return. If it's not Florida, it's going to be for state, because if you plan on using him in the playoffs, you're going to want to get a look at him in the regular season. It's not a guy you want to throw out there when you're in a playoff matchup. But granted, you have to win these 2 games before you even get there. Like Daylan was saying about Trey, I'd really like to see him get some snaps. Similar to what I was saying about Diggs, I don't know if you want Trey's first time in the offense again to be in a playoff atmosphere. You want to get adjusted to having Trey back. You want him to get in the flow of the offense a little bit, because the last time he was in the offense, he was the offense. So I don't know. He's not really used to, getting the ball spread around, probably doing a little more passing here, be more of a decoy than, okay, Trey, you go run a 4 vertical route, go run a slant route, ball's coming to you. Regardless, it's promising that we won that game, because if we don't, you could be looking at Trey sitting out for the whole season for draft stock, NFL reasons, whatever. But we win, and now, everyone gets a chance to get healthy and go take on a talented Florida team. Like Daylan said, they lost badly at Texas, but we've seen this team play, and we've seen what they can do. They played Georgia well. DJ Lag was a hell of a player. But with this defense, I truly believe that Ole Miss is going to win out and hopefully earn themselves a home game for the playoffs, Daylan. That's really all I got on this Georgia game. We'll be sure to come back with you with some more content throughout the week. I know Daylan's busy, but if you got anything else to add, brother, please let me know.
Yeah, a few shout outs, man. First shout out to Caden Davis. I think the opportunities that he was given were deserved, but as well, obviously a good buddy of mine. But I obviously as well have to understand that he has not had the best year, and he's missed a lot of kicks and some extra points throughout the course of this year that based off last year we didn't really expect to happen. And he really executed really well this weekend. I mean, considering the fact that it was raining throughout the day and raining throughout the game, he looked really good, 5 for 5, and there were points needed. And shout out to Lane Kiffin as well in that same hump, because we kind of talked about this, and I talked about this with Stephen Willis as well. We kind of all gotten just a little annoyed at times with Lane going on 4th down so much when we could just take points, and that would help us out a lot. And I guess that finally clicked in Lane this weekend, that this is the time where you have to take what's given to you, and that's 3 points sometimes. And we took those opportunities, and Caden put it through the uprights. And that I mean, 5 for 5. That's 15 points. That really helped in the game. I mean, and I'm really proud of him because he has just received a lot of hate and criticism since the Kentucky game, and he's just kept his head up and moved forward and produced a really good game against Georgia. And I really couldn't be more proud of him for that. So shout out to Cade. Second shout out to Lane Kiffin. I mean, I think before the season starts, I heard so much is, can Lane Kiffin get over the hump? And first of all, what is the hump? And for me, the hump is winning the big game. Before the season started, I thought we were going to go 11-1. I thought we were actually going to beat Georgia, and I thought we were going to go to Baton Rouge and lose. I'm more frustrated how we lost to LSU than actually losing. But since we had 2 losses, and you lose this game, you're done. You're absolutely done. This is a complete just failure of a season for Lane Kiffin and company. And for him to, like I just said, understand the game plan, take the points when needed, uh, put his players in a position where they could really just succeed this weekend. And on top of that, man, coming off last year at Georgia, us getting eviscerated, and then the press conference right out of the game, Lane just basically says we got to recruit better. Goes out, does that, comes back this year against Georgia, we dominate. That just shows me the evolvement of who he has become since that game a year ago against Georgia. And I really just cannot give him more props for being able to do that effectively at Ole Miss, where it's not been easy to do for coaches before. And he's come in, elevated this program to a national level consistently year after year. And man, just I'm so glad we got the job done, but I'm really just glad for him that he can just put that I can't, the nose that he can't win a big game behind. And I'm really just proud of him for doing that. Man, oh man, I'm proud of him. And third, Charlie Wise. Obviously, a guy, everyone and myself included have been so critical this season for obvious reasons. But I thought he called a really good game yesterday. I really do. I said throughout the week that I thought, we were going to have to put up 30 plus points to win. We did, and that's definitely okay. But I saw Charlie call a really good game yesterday. I thought he executed the game plan really well, understood when to use short passes, how to convert properly on fourth and third downs. I was really proud of Charlie. I think again, I don't know what kicked into everyone this weekend. I'm glad it did. And we've seen a turn in this offense since the second half against Oklahoma. And like they say, don't let the reps get hot. Well, we're getting hot, and I'm proud of the game plan from Charlie and the understanding of how to utilize every opportunity. Juice Wells got him a touchdown, and you just using the guys that we have, and that's something just everyone's been talking about all year long. But I want to give Charlie his props. I mean, he deserves them, and I thought he just did a really good job yesterday. He deserved that win more than anyone as well. So those are my quick three shout outs that I just wanted to give. I thought those are three just really deserving people, and obviously some other guys that we've talked about throughout the course of the show today. But man, oh man, just unforgettable weekend, and I'm so glad that we got the job done. It was my Super Bowl, man. Just personally, it was my freaking Super Bowl.
I'm with you, man. And I mean, just to be an Ole Miss Rebel, I've taken a lot of pride in it. Being from Chicago, not a lot of people from Chicago at Ole Miss, so it's cool. You come down south and you get to join this community, and then we beat Georgia, and everyone's texting you, "Oh my god!" And it's just a lot of pride to be here. So very grateful, especially just to be involved in the media as well. And like Daylan said, man, Lane Kiffin and Charlie Wise Jr. for the slander that they've gotten this year, they called one hell of a game against Georgia and Kirby Smart, who's probably the best coach in college football.
Yeah.
So you got the job done. Now it's time to win out. And let's go show the country, man, that this is a national championship contending team. There's no doubt in my mind. But this week, coming back to the present here, we got a bye week. Me and Daylan will, like I said, we'll keep you posted with more content. Be sure to tune into the rebelwalk.com. Daylan, anything else, brother?
No, man. Enjoy the bye week, everyone. Have a great week. Howdy toddy, y'all. We'll see y'all throughout the week, of course.
Like and subscribe as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hotty toddy and go Rebs.